This is Vane, developed by Tokyo-based company Friend and Foe. Vane is a kind of interesting exploratory game, so it's a lot like something like Journey or something like Flower, I guess, in that you're sort of just exploring a kind of environment and just interacting with the objects there to kind of progress through into the next stages. So the setting for Vane is this kind of post-apocalypse kind of thing. You start off as a kind of nameless, faceless young boy, possibly young girl, it's not particularly clear, who can for some reason transform or transmogrify into a bird. So you will spend a lot of the game flying around in bird form and then eventually progressing into human form and swapping between the two of them in different ways. So the game does restrict you in some ways on how you can turn from bird into human, but going from human into bird is particularly cool in that you just have to throw yourself off a high cliff and you'll just transform into the bird as a sort of safety mechanism, I guess. But it looks really cool. The transformation is really interesting, and that's actually kind of a thing I took away from the game a lot. There's a lot of really interesting technical things going on here, like the transformation in models. The environment itself deforms and reshapes itself in real time. Like there's no loading; it just changes shape. It looks a bit funky because they're clearly working with some kind of very impressive tessellation technology going on, in that the environment can deform in lots of different ways. But despite it having some really interesting technical stuff, the gameplay itself is very basic, and the game itself is quite short and is also kind of confusing. Like Journey doesn't exactly spell out its story to you, but you kind of get it. You know, you get the idea of it. There's this kind of cyclical rebirth thing going on with Journey. They kind of have the same thing going on here, but it's not very obvious what's happening. And the game can be a little obscure in what it wants you to do. Now, there's a stream archive on the channel of me playing this game, and I did get lost very early. Now, that particular time was entirely my fault. That's just, I wasn't reading the environment right. But there are definitely times later on in the game where it's not my fault that I was lost and the game was just being very obscure about what it wanted me to do. I think it's an enjoyable experience, and it's very interesting to see the technical things that they're managing to pull off here. As I said, the transformation animations, the environment deforming, that kind of thing, it's all very, very impressive. I just don't think the game itself, the gameplay wise, is particularly great. I'd be very interested to see what they can do with this tech now that they've not necessarily perfected it, but they have a kind of proof of concept now. Maybe they can use that to make a more fleshed out gameplay experience. This is new Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe, developed and published by Nintendo. So a bit of a mouthful, in the title. New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe is a Switch port of New Super Mario Bros. U, which was a Wii U title and was itself, I think, a port or possibly a sequel to just New Super Mario Bros. So if you're not familiar, the new Super Mario Bros. Series is kind of an extension of the old 2D Super Mario Bros. Games. So going back to the Nintendo and Super Nintendo, those styles from before Super Mario 64 when the series went fully 3D. So New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe is the Switch version of all those games, I think. It's not entirely clear, but anyway, it's a 2D platformer, very old school Super Mario with a lot of bells and whistles, with a lot of production value. You can see the screens are very rich. You know, there's a lot of assets and a lot of content on the screens, but it is still your kind of basic run and jump and go right platforming style game. The basic crux of the story, if you like, it's the very, you know, the classic Super Mario. Princess Peach is captured by Bowser and Mario has to go through the lands of the Mushroom Kingdom and rescue her by jumping lots and lots and lots. And that's pretty much the gist of it. There have been a couple of additions accessibility wise. There's Toadette, who is a bit of an easier character to play. She gets the Super Crown, which turns her into Peachette. There's also Nabbit, who is billed as being very easy to play. So basically Nabbit can't actually be hurt by anything. The only way to die as him is to fall in a pit. So if you're having trouble getting through a level, you can either use one of those two characters to get through, or you can wait for the guided mode, which will just show you how to get through the level, or if you like, just auto-finish the level for you. So the game can be kind of as easy and as difficult as you want it to be. You can just stick with Mario or Luigi or Toad and just play the game as you normally would. You know, you can just play through the level and just go on that level of difficulty, or you can try to collect everything. It's a little bit more difficult. Very large map, a lot of levels to play through. I'm only about halfway through it myself. But if you wanted to, so there's a couple of new modes that you can play. Some of them are fairly basic, like time attacks and collectathons and things like that you can even play with your Mii, if you like. But there is another mode, which is Luigi mode. New Super Luigi U, I think it's called. Where you play as Luigi and you replay all the levels, but they're significantly more difficult. So if you found the original very easy, you can, you know, throw on Luigi. I don't know if they're trying to retcon it so that Luigi is better than Mario, or if they're trying to just say Luigi perceives the same levels as just being harder because he's shit. Who knows? Anyway, this is a lot of fun to play. It's, you know, old school Mario, lots of fun. And it's a Nintendo first party title, so there's plenty of quality there. It is a Switch exclusive, of course, because it is a Nintendo first party title. So if you have your Switch, you should pick it up. This is Onimusha Warlords, developed and published by Capcom. This Onimusha Warlords is a remaster of the original release on the PS2, came out in 2001 and was later ported to the Xbox in 2002. So for anyone who's not familiar with the original Onimusha Warlords, Onimusha is basically, the whole series is basically Resident Evil, but in the Sengoku period of Japanese history. So kind of feudal states and a samurai and ninja and that kind of thing. Onimusha Warlords is the first entry in the Onimusha series. It takes place in Inabayama Castle. You play as Samanosuke Akechi, and it is your job to rescue Princess Yuki, who has been captured by demons. And you can't tell right now, but I am quoting demons, because that is not the correct translation. It plays like, or the original rather, played like Resident Evil. It was tank controls, but in place of guns you had swords and magic and various other things. So there was a much heavier emphasis on combat. Bit clunky, but you know, it's what we had at the time, and I definitely enjoyed it. I was a very big fan of Onimusha, and still am. So Onimusha Warlords HD, or the remaster, I think they're just calling it Onimusha Warlords. So a couple of changes they made. The aspect ratio is different, so the original would have been 4:3, so this new one is now 16:9, which is more for the widescreen TVs that we have these days. The graphics have got a bit of an upscale as well, so the HD backgrounds are pre-rendered, the models are a bit finer. Probably the bigger change, or the one that has the most drastic impact on gameplay, is that tank controls are now optional. So this was something else they did with the Resident Evil remaster and remake, is that the analog stick now gives you free movement. It's not as clunky for people who aren't used to tank controls, they can still use their analog stick. A couple of other changes they made, they re-recorded a lot of the audio for the Japanese voice, and the music is also re-recorded, but the English dub is still there in all its glory, which I am also putting in quotation marks. The original Onimusha was very well received, very critically well received, a very good game. Its opening and CG received a great many awards, even in academic circles in SIGGRAPH, which is an academic conference based purely for graphics. The remaster is great because getting to just play Onimusha at the moment is kind of difficult. If you wanted to try and play the original, you'd need a PS2 or a functioning Xbox, neither of which are exactly easy to come by since they're not really being made anymore. So it's good that it is available. I would say that the analog movement does kind of trivialize a lot of the combat. The combat used to be very strategic because, you know, tank controls weren't exactly great, but the analog movement makes it very easy to just run circles around the enemy. I do definitely remember having trouble playing the original game, some of the later sections, but I kind of blasted through this one, so I don't know, it's probably gotten a lot easier, or maybe I'm not remembering it as well, but anyway, it's still a great game. It's not full price, it was only €20. Hopefully this will see more of the Onimusha series, Onimusha 2, Onimusha 3, maybe not Onimusha 4, you can leave that one alone. Or, you know, maybe just reboot the whole thing and let's get a fully proper current gen Onimusha. I'd love to see that. This is available on Switch, PS4 and Xbox One, and also PC, I think, maybe. You might want to check that one yourself.
Sweet, beautiful, lovely, the dripping blood, and what's this? Oh, a liver. What's that smell? Who's there? A human? How disappointing.
This is Resident Evil 2 Remake, developed and published by Capcom. Okay, so I've been going on about this Resident Evil 2 Remake ever since it was dropped on E3, I think last year's E3, maybe the year before, I can't remember now. And I was like, yeah, we're making Resident Evil 2, or we're remaking Resident Evil 2. What's up? And I'm like, what? So, has it lived up to the hype? Has it lived up to my lofty expectations? Yeah, it has. It's really fucking good. So anyone who's not familiar, Resident Evil 2 Remake is obviously a remake of Resident Evil 2 from the way back era of the PS1. So some differences. So obviously the biggest difference is massive upscale in graphical presentation. A big gameplay difference is Resident Evil 2, the original, was tank controls and fixed camera angle. And Resident Evil 2 Remake is a free camera and an over-the-shoulder presentation and free movement on the analog stick. So it plays considerably more like the newer Resident Evil 4, 5, 6, Revelations, those kind of games. Not a lot like the original Resident Evils, which is fine because this game plays really, really well. Story-wise, you are either Leon S. Kennedy, rookie RPD police officer, or Claire Redfield, who is the sister of Chris Redfield from the original Resident Evil, and you arrive in Raccoon City and zombies, and you don't like zombies, so you want to get away from the zombies, and that's the game, more or less. There's some corporate intrigue from the Umbrella Corporation releasing the virus, and you do eventually find out what the source of the virus was, and you gotta kill big monsters with your guns and avoid getting chomped on by zombies and other things. So I'm really enjoying this now. I finished the game with both characters. So if anyone is familiar with the original Resident Evil 2, just completing the game isn't the end of the game, because there is a second scenario that you can run through as both characters again, that kind of shows you what's happening while one character is doing one thing in the game. You can see what the other character was doing at that particular moment. So there's a lot more longevity in that. One way this game differentiated is there's a character or an enemy called Mr. X, who's this big, unstoppable, kind of Hulk-like guy who just walks around the environment stalking you. He originally didn't show up until the second scenario, so that was like a big stinger for that. It was like, oh shit, I've got this guy after me for the whole game now. Whereas now they've pulled him into both scenarios, so now he shows up regardless, so you have to put up with him no matter what. He's a bit divisive in that he does sort of slow the gameplay to a bit of a cat and mouse kind of thing. So some people don't like it and some people do. You know, it depends on your flavor. I really enjoy the whole Mr. X stalking thing, so I'm fine with that. What I'm really liking is just the subtle changes they've made to the story. You know, Resident Evil 2 is one of my favorite, if not my favorite game of all time. And it's a lot of people's favorite game of all time. And just getting to see this just redone, brought into the modern era is just so good. It's a great action game, and it's a great horror game, and it's a very tense game. So it does still have the survival horror element to it. Resources are scarce, so it's not like the newer Resident Evils where when you kill an enemy they drop ammo or they drop health or whatever. There are specific pickups in Resident Evil 2, so you do have to be a bit careful. Enemies you are fighting, so in Resident Evil 4, 5, 6, again the newer action games, you do have a lot of enemies on screen, but they're kind of weak. You know, you can take them out with a couple of headshots or a couple of shots to the leg, a few melee strikes, and they're done, but there's a lot of them. Whereas in this game, there aren't as many enemies, but they're tough. You know, you can take them down with a couple of headshots, but they'll get right back up again in like a couple of seconds. You know, so all you're really doing is postponing the inevitable of having to deal with them. Additionally, the liquor enemy, who was a big threat in the original game, is a very big threat in this. He's very scary to fight. The redone boss fights are really interesting as well. And Ada is still top contention for best girl. All I say about this is if you have any interest at all in the Resident Evil series, you really do need to pick this up. And if you don't have an interest, get an interest in Resident Evil, because it's a great series. Yeah, I'm going back to play more Resident Evil, honestly, so I'll see you later.
I understand. I won't let you down, Marvin.
So those were some of the games I played for January 2019. Resident Evil 2 Remake, very, very happy with. Onimusha Warlords is a great blast from the past. New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe is a lot of content for me to get through that I've never played before. And Vane was interesting to play, and I did like the technical aspects of it, but not a whole lot to write home about gameplay-wise. One notable absence even from this month is Kingdom Hearts 3, which obviously came out at the end of January. At time of recording for this video, I haven't played it yet, so I didn't want to try to rush something just to get something into this video. So it'll be in next month's video, it'll be in February's when I've had a bit more time to play it. Hopefully might have finished it by then as well. Right now I haven't touched it, it's sitting installed on my console, so I'm just waiting to boot it up. I'm trying to get through Resident Evil 2. I want to get through that second scenario. It's kind of kicking my ass at the moment. But speaking of next month, so there will be Kingdom Hearts 2. I am looking at probably checking out God Eater 3 as well. I've heard some interesting things about the God Eater series, so I am actually kind of interested in that. I missed the demo for it, which I was kind of hoping to play so I'd have some idea what the game was about, but I don't know. I was thinking of Anthem as well, but I played the demo and I'm not feeling it at all, so probably will not feature at least in February's video. It may feature down the line if it goes on sale or something. I might pop it in, but otherwise, no, I don't think that's going to happen. Metro Exodus, yeah, probably. Again, I'm not over the moon about it, so I don't know, but I'm thinking it probably will. But yeah, it's looking kind of short on videos for next month, so I might need to pull something out of the backlog, or maybe just take an extended look at Resident Evil 2, because I'm really, really enjoying that. Some other news on the channel, I did resurrected my Twitch account, so that's had some content on it. I have live streamed all the games from this month's video. Some of them went well and some of them did not go well, and some of them had technical issues, so I'm still sort of figuring out the whole live streaming thing. But it's twitch.tv/doomtrain5. You can find me there. The link is in the description as well. So I am hoping to do more live streams on games that would feature in the games of whatever, games of February, games of March, and some kind of long form LPs and some just casual playthroughs and that kind of thing. So if you're interested, you can check it out there. There's no pressure. Please do let me know what you thought about this month's video, or any of the videos, or any content really. I'm happy to talk about all the games, all the game things. And I'll see you next time. Maybe I'll see you on Twitch. Who knows? And I just pointed at the camera, but I'm not actually recording the camera. But whatever. I'll get this thing eventually. Alright. See you guys later.